This is Talk of the Nation, Science Friday. I'm Ira Flato. Even if you're driving a 40-mile-per-gallon Prius, VW diesel, or smart car, you're feeling the pain at the pump. And over the past years, we've talked with experts, plenty of them, about various energy alternatives, from wind to solar to nuclear to ethanol to hydrogen, fuel cells. But none of those are the answer, says Dr. George Olah, an expert in hydrocarbons and a 1994 winner of the Nobel Prize in Chemistry. He's putting his money on alcohol, but not the ethanol made from corn that might be in your gas tank now. We're talking about methanol, what we used to call wood alcohol. He says with the will and effort that we could muster, we could actually convert to an entirely methanol-based economy. He's even designed a methanol fuel cell that could not only turn methanol into electricity, but could be run in reverse, creating methanol, and in the process sucking up carbon dioxide from industrial sources, turning it into liquid methanol. So we're going to be talking about this with Dr. Olah, and if you'd like to get in on our conversation, our number is 1-800-989-8255, 1-800-989-TALK. What do you think about a methanol economy? George Olah is a Nobel laureate in chemistry. He's the co-author of Beyond Oil and Gas, The Methanol Economy, just out from Wiley, VCH. And he's the Donald P. and Catherine B. Locher Distinguished Professor of Organic Chemistry at the University of Southern California in Los Angeles. He joins us from the studios of KUSC. Welcome to the program, Dr. Olah.
It's my pleasure to be here.
What do you think of the president's statements about alternative energy? He's pushing for more methanol and research into hydrogen.
Oh, look, obviously the president is trying his best. We have a difficult situation, but as I said before, there are no easy, simple solutions.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think methanol is better than all these other solutions?
Now, look, first I would like to say something about energy. You see, we are not involved in generating energy. You can generate energy from different sources. And mankind, ever Homo sapiens, our ancestors managed to lit fire in a cave, is using for life energy. Initially, of course, it was burning wood and whatever else our ancestors gathered. Eventually, in the Industrial Revolution, coal was the essence which gave the power for the Industrial Revolution. And then in the 19th century, the second part in the 19th century, mankind discovered petroleum oil, which was seeping out in some places from the ground. And eventually it was found that if you dig down a little, you can get out more, and a huge industry developed, which is producing oil. And somewhat later, natural gas entered the picture. And the 20th century basically was based on enormous progress using these gifts from nature. You see, all the so-called fossil fuels, coal, oil, natural gas, are formed in nature from natural sources.
Dr. Olah, we understand the history. We're trying to understand why you want methanol instead of ethanol or hydrogen or any of these other sources.
Well, but I am not really trying to give you a history. I'm just tell you that what we have, what was given by nature, unfortunately is limited, and we are using it up. And therefore we need to find new solutions. And the quest for new solution is complex, difficult, and I don't believe that there is a single silver bullet. Now, much is said about, say, hydrogen economy, or much is said recently about ethanol. And these are all ways to try to face the problem. But when you think about it, hydrogen is not a primary source. Hydrogen is not available on planet Earth in its free form. There is no hydrogen in our atmosphere. You can't mine hydrogen. Hydrogen is bound. because it likes other elements. For example,
it's in the water.
oxygen.
It's in the water. We have lots of it in our oceans.
We have it in the water, but in order to free it from the water, a lot of energy is needed for it. Mm-hmm. And the same can be said for others. Now, once you have energy, whether it's from still existing fossil sources, atomic energy, or any other alternate source, the wind, water power, and so on, you still must store it. And this is a very big problem. And hydrogen, in my mind, is simply a way to store energy. You use energy to liberate hydrogen, say, from water. And then you have hydrogen gas, a very volatile, very difficult to handle gas, or lightest element, and you need an entirely new infrastructure to handle it under high pressure and so on. Now, there are other ways to store energy and other ways to generate sources.
Well, what's wrong with ethanol? Ethanol is also, you have to make ethanol like you would have to make methanol, and it comes from an energy source. Why not? Why not? Why is methanol, which you still haven't told me why it's better than ethanol or better than any of them?
Oh, Mr. Flato, you ask a very good question. Ethanol is produced, or what is promoted presently, and what the president puts major emphasis on it, is coming from agricultural sources. It can, of course, also be made by chemistry, and very few people talk about it. But what we are talking about ethanol is that we can grow, of course, a lot of corn or other agricultural product, and they can be converted by fermentation and so on to ethyl alcohol. Now, what's wrong with it? What's wrong with it? First of all, I don't believe that ethanol really is a very good fuel for our cars and so on. Now, just as an anecdotal remark, I don't know how far this is known, but the first one who really suggested to use agricultural alcohol as a fuel and as a source, as a raw material, was Lenin after the Bolshevik Revolution. And he suggested that Russia's agricultural alcohol, which is available in fairly large amount, could be used. Now, the trouble was that agricultural alcohol in Russia is vodka. And whereas the Russians tolerated a lot from the Bolsheviks, be killed, robbed, raped, and so on, but this was, to my knowledge, the only item. There was such a great resistance that even Lenin in his life withdrew this. Now, when I am saying...
So ethanol is the communist fuel, is that what you're saying?
I am not saying it's a communist fuel. Let's put it this way. In Russia, way before the communists, people had a very difficult life. And the vodka, which came from fermenting either grain or potatoes and so on, was an elixir which made life somewhat easier. So giving it up wasn't really something even the Russians were willing to do. Now, there is an essential difference between methanol and ethanol. When we are talking about methanol, it's, as you mentioned in your introduction, originally it was made in small amounts from distilling wood or wood chip. But basically, methyl alcohol or methanol is made by man, and it can be made from different sources. Presently is made nearly exclusively from natural gas or from coal. Now, these are, of course, fossil fuels, and they suffer in the same problem as oil and gas. They are limited in amount, and whereas they will last longer than oil and coal, still we are talking about a lifespan, even of coal reserve, which is not more than a couple of centuries. In contrast, methanol can be made by man from still available sources like natural gas or coal, but eventually it can be also made from carbon dioxide. Now, may I mention something? all fossil fuel, all fuels which contain, or all material which contains carbon, when it's used up, it burned. It combines with oxygen and forms carbon dioxide. And carbon dioxide is also part of our atmosphere, also in a low concentration. Now, it was realized years ago that carbon dioxide is also a greenhouse gas. It contributes to global warming in the way that with increasing carbon dioxide content of the atmosphere, we are able to revert less energy of the sun back, and therefore our planet is undergoing a warming process which causes real problem. I don't think I need to go in detail of this. It's fairly well known. In Kyoto, 8 years ago, 140-some nations come to an agreement, the Kyoto Protocol, which said that we should limit carbon emission. It's a wonderful and very sensible decision. The only trouble with Kyoto is that it was not able to offer any technological solution. It offered an economic solution of sort, that each country will have a given quota of how much carbon dioxide it can emit, and these quotas are even starting to be traded. But as you know, the air belongs to everybody. There is no barriers going up to heaven between countries. So whoever lets up carbon dioxide into the atmosphere...
You're listening to Talk of the Nation Science Friday. I'm Ira Flato. We're talking this hour with George Olah, Nobel Prize chemist, co-author of the book Beyond Oil and Gas, The Methanol Economy, co-author with Alan Gopert, C.G. Surya Prakash. Our number 1-800-989-8255. Dr. Olah, you were saying that methanol is basically an intermediary. It's not an energy itself, but it's a way to store other energies. If you have methane, if you have other kinds of energies, you can use it to transport it to other places that you might not be able to do with other energies. And then you can take it to a gas station and pump it into a car itself. Would that be correct?
Now, you said, of course, that it's a storage way of energy. Mm-hmm. It's also a convenient way to transport energy.
Right.
Much more convenient than very volatile and dangerous hydrogen gas. But methanol itself is also an excellent fuel. You can mix it in any proportion into gasoline. And this incidentally was done years ago, but it slowly disappeared. Now, you can also use it in other devices, like you mentioned, the fuel cell. A fuel cell is a device in which a chemical reaction produces directly electricity. So we have developed, together with colleagues from Caltech JPL laboratory, a fuel cell device which isn't working on hydrogen and oxygen as the original fuel cell, which was discovered more than a century ago and was rediscovered in the space age. Our fuel cell works on a safe liquid. Methyl alcohol or methanol is a liquid which boils around 56 degrees, so you can handle it very well. It can handle at gasoline stations, or it can put into fuel cells without creating or discovering or spending trillions on new infrastructure.
You also mentioned that the fuel cell can work backwards to make methanol. How does that happen? And also, in doing so, you can suck in carbon dioxide out of smokestacks or the air just to recycle it, so to speak.
Now, as you raise this question, now I am coming to it. If methanol is a good fuel, and it's also an excellent raw material, it's well known now that you can make practically everything which is manufactured from oil or gas. All our product, plastic, pharmaceutical, dyes, whatever, you can all make them from methanol, because methanol can be very easily converted into the building block of synthetic hydrocarbons, which are called olefins, ethylene.